is up, golf addicts? Welcome to this week's Tour Junkies podcast for the ButterField Bermuda Classic. ButterField. You'll notice that you're not hearing DB's voice, you're hearing Pat's voice, and that is because DB is off gallivanting around, doing full-time DB things. He's in Miami for the Live Golf event this week. Unbelievable. Playing golf today with PGA memes and doing all kinds of stuff. So good for him. But I get to be joined by our good friend, Caddy John Rathouse. How are you doing, sir? And what's up?
Not much. Hey, good to be here, Pat. Pleasure to join you. It was fun to do it earlier this year, and nice that we get to do it again here this fall. I am slightly jealous of what DB's got going on. Is he going to the concerts too? Is he staying around for the whole week to catch up the concert series?
I don't know what he's doing. I don't know. I mean, hopefully he's going to have a good time, make some good contacts. I hope he does go to the concerts and get some good footage, Just I bet there's a lot of cologne at those. I bet cologne's just flying all over the place at those concerts. That's what I feel like, or the events, like the party before they start. It's just like a cologne extravaganza.
A cloud of cologne in Miami. You cannot pick a better place to host a Live finale event than Miami.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Well, before we get into it, you got to know our show is sponsored by fantasynational.com/TJ. Go to that site. You get any kind of stats, form, whatever you want to see, whatever kind of stuff you want to do. Go to fantasynational.com to get all your research done. It's our one-stop shop for everything we do, and we'll be using it a lot for this week's Bermuda Championship. Promo code Tour Junkies gets you 20% off, whether you do monthly, whether you do quarterly, annually, whatever it is. Just use promo code Tour Junkies at fantasynational.com/TJ. I'm going to be using those stats tonight. I'm sure John is as well. But we do appreciate you joining us. And, John, one of the things that I love about you is that you really, we can talk about golf courses, right? Like I used to do the course preview before DB started doing a separate show when he went full time. And, I enjoy doing the course breakdowns, but DB doesn't let me do them anymore. But I haven't actually been on several of the courses on the PGA Tour. It's not like I'm, going around the circuit actually playing those courses or walking those courses, but you have. You've been on most all of these courses, so you have some great insight. And so I'm going to kind of kick it off here, talking a little bit about the course this week. What are your thoughts of Port Royal Golf Club in Southampton, Bermuda? Now I can give some basics here. It's a par 71. It's just over 6,800 yards, not very long by normal tour standards. We've got a full field event this week, so we're back to a cut. We've had 2 weeks in a row with no cut. You pretty much got Bermuda grass tee to green, with these greens not being all that difficult as far as I'm concerned. But the wind the wind and the rain and the weather and everything is going to be the key to this course. But what are your thoughts? Just having walked that course before, and just what do you think about it?
Well, yeah, it was good to hear the breakdown. I mean, 3 par 5s only this week. You can get home on all 3 of them, so that's of note. You mentioned the length, 6,800 yards. I mean, that's short even for short PGA Tour standards. I mean, that's unheard of these days, 6,800 yards. It's a definitely throwback golf course. It's this really cool piece of property. I mean, Bermuda by and large sits on this like scraggly rock cliffside kind of looking thing. So they had to kind of fit these holes in there. And there's some really cool ocean holes, particularly the 16th, 15th and 16th. Really hard up by the 15th tee box. In fact, there's an old place where they would kind of shoot from a top. What would you call that? Where they're kind of protecting the island. They had their base there back in the 1400s.
Oh, they had a fort. They had a fort up there. Yeah.
There's a fort right by 15T. I really like the golf course. I think it's really fun. But as you mentioned, I mean, two things. Obviously, Bermuda grass, right? We're in Bermuda, so Bermuda grass, wall to wall. And also the wind. I mean, the wind is constant there. It's consistent. I looked at the forecast this week. You're going to get kind of that trade wind going on, which is around this time of year, southeast, east, southeast. That's going to be very consistent. There might be a little curveball on Sunday, which is always fun. Maybe flip to the north a little bit more. You know, you got to be in the fairway off the tee if you're going to have a short golf course. You know, obviously controlling lies, the flyer lies and whatnot. You've got greens that kind of, you know, have a lot of slope in them in certain sections. You know, you can definitely short side yourself. There's deep bunkers. So, you know, it's, you know, not long, but, you know, I think there's plenty of protection. You know, I think iron play is important. I think that's the biggest factor you can have. And that's kind of a subset of, can you play in the wind? I mean, there's certain guys that I was really hoping Kurt Kitayama was going to tee it up this week. He has just caught fire and he just, bye-bye, I'm not playing in this event. But he would have been a guy that I would have picked this week. He's a great wind player. I do think around the green does matter this week as well. You know, whenever you get courses like that, you're going to have to scramble a little bit to save pars. Obviously good Bermuda putting, you know, and you look at the past champs here, you know, Lucas Herbert last year, solid player, good wind player. Then you got Brian Gay, who good putter, you know, hits it straight. And then Brendan Todd, who I had the chance to work for about a month ago in Jackson, Mississippi, you know, straight as it doesn't hit it anywhere, very straight, you know, so those are the types of players that do well here typically because, you know, the driver is kind of neutralized a little bit here.
Yeah, I was going to mention past winners. You know, I think when you look at just the profile of those winners, these are guys that are good ball strikers. You know, they hit fairways. They don't make a whole lot of mistakes, especially when you're getting to play in a decent amount of wind. The winning score was, you know, it was 15 under the last 2 years. And the weather was, you know, it's pretty windy the last 2 years. But then when Brendan Todd won, he won at 24 under. I mean, it was just a birdie fest. But there was hardly any wind whatsoever. It was very benign conditions. But I do think we can get some longer shots that are going to win this week. I mean, you look at Lucas Herbert. He was 80-1 pre-tournament. You look at Brian Gay. He was 250-1. You had Brendan Todd was anywhere around like 100-1 to 80-1 to win.
Yeah.
So I think this could be a little bit of long shot season. You know, at least the possibility of that. You know, last week we had Rory. So DB and I have been talking about this since the beginning of the year, really. I mean, we've had so many just short odds, favorite guys winning, and Rory, he continued that trend last week. Now, I will say this. We had a special guest last week on the show. He looked a lot like DB, okay? But he was kind of like dorky DB, and he was overly kind to me, which was weird. And there was a lot of things going on with this guy. And I don't know what his name is. I have no idea. But he picked Rory. So maybe we need to have him back on as sort of a short-term guest. I don't think I can have him on as long as I can have you on because you're not near as annoying as that guy is. And he was very friendly, but there was just something about him that concerned me. But you're much cooler than he is. And also, what's the podcast you used tonight, John?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, the wife and I had some Sauvignon Blanc going with dinner. So that was kind of the primer. I don't know what your opinion on that is. You're a wine guy. I know you're more in the reds.
Yeah. I like it, though. I like it.
But I've got a little Masters glass here going in honor of you guys. Just some ginger beer and some vodka, some Tito's with a little lime in there. It's kind of my juice tonight. What do you got going?
I am drinking Tito's as well. I'm drinking Tito's. I got my normal little this little mixer. It's kind of it's a quick way to just mix a little Tito's with that stuff. And you know, it's not fancy, but it does the job. So all right. Let's get into it, okay? Let's get into it. Let's get into the 9K and above plays this week. All right. Now this is just gonna make you gag. Like everybody over 9K. Like it literally. Like let's just start with the 10K and above. You got Thomas Dietrich at the top, Denny McCarthy at 10-4, Adrian Moronk at 10-3. Interesting name there. Seamus Power is at 10-2, Aaron Rye at 10-1, and then Mark Hubbard at 10,000. If you go down into the 9K range, you go anywhere from Robbie Shelton at 9,100 to Justin Lauer at the top at 9,900. This is an interesting range, and I'll start off here with my favorite plays here. Okay. I really could possibly avoid all the 10K guys. And I will say this because I love the 8K range, and I think I'm going to have a lot of guys in there. Because when I was doing my research, I literally had like 5 guys I wanted to talk about in the 8K range. And we try to limit ourselves on here to just a few plays, and we want to nail down some guys. But in the over 9K range, I'll start with Aaron Rye. I do like Aaron Rye. He's there at 10-1. You look at the way he's played recently. He's played very consistent. Obviously made a lot of cuts. Had the T20 at the Shriners, T36 at the Zozos, the Zozo. Yeah, and then last year he did make the cut here, but look, we're dealing with kind of a weak field, so there's a lot of different things that we can talk about. But Aaron Rod does check a lot of boxes when you look at the stats. As a matter of fact, he is number 1 in the field for me when I look at my favorite stats, and that's for me, ball striking was one of those, strokes gained approach. I looked at driving accuracy, and then putting on Bermuda, and then also par 5 scoring. Now he's not that great putting on Bermuda, but he's first in the field in driving accuracy. He's 6th in approach, 4th in ball striking, and then he's 33rd in par 5 scoring. So just by stats alone, Aaron Rye, I think, makes a lot of sense this week. And then if I'm dropping down a little bit, I like Alex Smalley at 9,500. You look at par 5 scoring, he's top 25 there. Putts pretty well on Bermuda grass greens. He's also top 25 in the field in approach and checks the box in ball striking as well. So Alex Smalley is another one that I think could be a good play this week, and been pretty consistent lately. And also had a top 15 finish here last year, was T12. And then lastly, I do like Robbie Shelton at 9,100. Now, Robbie Shelton's not a guy that, is just going to really excite you all that much, but he's been playing well recently. Top 15 at the Shriners. He had a top 25 at the Fortinet just a few weeks ago. You look at his history here, it's not great. I mean, he missed the cut the only time he played here, which was in 2020, which was the year that the scoring was just, crazy with when Brennan Todd won. But Robbie does check a lot of boxes too for me. He's very accurate off the tee. He's good on approach. He's also great in par 5 scoring. I like that there. So Shelton, I think Alex Smalley, and I think Aaron Rye. And these are my GPP plays. So these are guys that I think are going to be fairly low owned that can win you a tournament when it comes to DraftKings. And then if I go look at a cash lock for me, I'm going to go with Russell Knox. I'm going to go with the name here at 9,200. He's across the board. He looks good on his stats. Now, his putting has always sucked. He did switch to a long putter. I don't know if he switched back or anything, but, he has been playing well recently. He had a top 25 at the Fortinet and the Sanderson Farms. Has a really good course history here. I mean, he has not finished outside of the top 20 at all in 3 years here. T11 in 2020. T16 in 2021, T12 in 2022. So I like Russell Knox as a cash play. And then my fade is going to be Denny McCarthy. He does have a good history here, but I just don't like his form. For a guy at 10-4, he hasn't finished. He's got one top 25, T25 on the number at the Fortinet in the fall. That's it. And he missed a cut at the Shriners. And, he's not really checking a whole lot of boxes for me. I mean, he is, the thing he does is putt well in Bermuda. That's it. Other than that, not really checking any boxes. So those are my guys. What do you got, John?
I will say that Denny does play well in the wind, right? We know that about Denny. So I think that is another reason that he's had a lot of success here. And it was nice to see the last couple of weeks he's actually turned a little of the ball striking back. It wasn't good there for a while. And then his putting's been off. So one thing you would always think you'd rely on with him is putting, and he hasn't been doing that the last week. That wouldn't concern me with Denny. I think this is a course that's a good fit for him, but it's a really crazy price. I mean, like you were saying earlier, we've got basically compared to last week, Thomas Dietrich is Rory McIlroy this week, and then Denny McCarthy will be playing the part of John Rahm. So, I mean, like you said, it's a different field this week. I do like a lot of your calls there. Particularly, I do like the Robbie Shelton one. That's a little bit under the radar. I think Robbie Shelton this time around has come to play. That guy, I was out with him maybe 3 years ago in a Korn Ferry Tour finals, and he's cold-blooded. He didn't come from much. He is a pro golfer that will, cut your, slit your throat. And I mean, he's good. The wind play concerns me a little bit with him just from the stats I looked at. I've only seen him in person, one time. So I do like the form he's carrying this year so far. And I think he's a baller. I also like your call on Aaron Rai. I didn't look too deep into him, but certainly a straight hitter and a guy that in this field, for all intents and purposes, is a veteran, right? A guy that's played over in Europe successfully. Maybe we could throw a little A-Bear blanket on him. This golf course suits him well. I wasn't as high on Smalley, but he did play well here last year, and this course is shown to be a place where guys that have played well before play well again. So I love your Russell Knox call. He's my chalk play too. He's also my favorite bet in this range on an outright. I think I saw him at 35-1. You look at Brian Gay winning here. You look at Brendan Todd, guys that just had won earlier in their careers, maybe had a little lull, and then took this as an opportunity. And we've got tons of great data on Russell here because of the wind and the ball striking. I mean, he just loves this place. You mentioned the putting. You look at his stats a little deeper, like peel a layer back. On Bermuda grass lately, this year, even going back to the Sony, he finished 7th at Sony, he finished 6th at the Players. His Bermuda grass putting has actually been decent. He's gaining strokes on Bermuda grass. So I think this time around, you're getting, although he played crap last week, I don't think that was a good golf course for him. I think it was too long. Now you're getting him in his wheelhouse with a little bit more confidence with the putters. So I really do think Russell, even a chalky Russell Knox this week, I'm on board with. And a guy you didn't mention that I like this week, I don't know if he can pull an outright win, but I do think he's going to play good, is Justin Lauer.
Yeah.
Played well last year. I don't even know how he got in the field last year. Did he Monday in? Did he get an invite? But
yeah, I don't know.
He finished 17th last year, and then he's coming in great form. I mean, that finish he had at Fortinet, that's his best ever PGA Tour finish. And you look back through his career, even on like Korn Ferry Tour events, 1 year he would finish 3rd at a place, and then he came back the next year and he finished 2nd. So that was kind of cool to see that stat where it's like, hey, I've played here before. I played good, but I'm not going to let it get in my head. Now he's got a new thing with like, hey, playing with the lead, but he's been there, done that. Weaker field. Like, I like what he's doing right now. And he's a good wind player. When you look at the limited data we have on him, he's a good wind player. I'm intrigued by Patrick Rogers. I don't know what to do with Patrick Rogers.
Nobody ever knows what to do with Patrick Rogers.
Yeah. Don't know what to do. I think Grayson Sigg is interesting a little bit. And Dietrich, World Traveler, been playing a lot lately, but I did talk to his caddy in Jackson, and he said this guy is really good, and he's shown it already. So I think he could be a guy that's in play. My fade is my old boss, and I hate to do this to him, but Seamus Power is.
I was about to ask you about him. Yeah,
really struggling with the irons right now. And he gets by with short game, which he can do this week. He can go out there, and I wouldn't be surprised if he top 25, top 30, but at the price you're getting charged for him this week, I wouldn't be in at, 10-2 on Seamus. It's a really difficult place to find your game with all the wind there. You got a crappy range. You're sitting up on this top of this mountain, hitting down into a net, left to right wind. Like, you got to be having some form when you're coming here, in my opinion. So, that's kind of my look at the 9K and above. A lot of similarities, and I really like Russell.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's good insight on Seamus. Like, I think if you're struggling with your irons going into an event like this, it's just not going to be a place where you're going to find it, especially if there's wind and whatever else. You just can't get comfortable. So I agree with that. And Seamus was one that I looked at as a possible fade. I kind of left him a little bit for you, thinking that maybe you might go that route, but I wasn't sure. Now, I do have some bets in here that I like. Before I talk about some bets, though, listen, folks, Front Nine Coffee, all right? DB and I We each have our own flavor, which is fine. You know, I've heard that more people are buying his, which is stupid because it's got like a hazelnut flavor in it. And look, flavored coffee is whatever. Like, just get some real good coffee, like my brand. You know, my coffee. You know, Pat's Bump and Run. It's just a normal, good dark roast coffee. But whatever, if you want to buy some hazelnut, that's fine. But it doesn't matter. Front Nine coffee is great. It's fresh, you know, delivered to your door. I cannot stress enough how good Front Nine coffee is. You go in there, order some. They got the Lauderdale roast, which is awesome. You can get it ground if you want it. You can get whole beans, which I get whole beans. I got a fancy coffee maker, John. Okay, it's a fancy one. And so I get the whole beans. But they're fresh roasted. You just go to front9coffee.com, use promo code TJ10. You get 10%. 10 what? 10% off any order that you have at Front Nine Coffee. All right, let's look at a few bets in here. Now, for me, I've got a few, and some of them coincide with my DFS plays, and some of them you mentioned as well. So Grayson Sigg, I think at 40-1 is a pretty good number. You know, I think, you know, I don't know if I want to play Hubbard in DFS, but I'm tempted to play him at 25-1 from a betting standpoint. He's just been playing really well lately. So I like that. And I like Aaron Rye at 35-1. Those are kind of three of the bets that I think that I like. Anybody else like that you may have not mentioned in DFS, but you're looking at the odds that you really like, John, or
No, not really. I mean, I think the Robbie Shelton one is intriguing. But, you know, yeah, the Russell Knox is my favorite one. And I see what you're saying about old Mother Hubbard. I mean, that guy's knocking on the door. He's laid back dude. He couldn't get in the island vibes here. There was something when I was looking at it, I was like, there's something didn't quite make sense for here with him. But I mean, he's been playing as good as anyone, you know, so I like Hubbard this week.
Yeah, Shelton, by the way, is 40-1. That's the best odds I've seen him at, and I like that one as well. So I'm with you there. All right, let's get into the 8K range. Now, this is the range that I mentioned I love. There are so many guys in here, John, that I think we could look at. But I'll give you two favorites, and then I'll give cash play and a fade. But I think you know, I'll give you more plays really when it comes to betting standpoint, but I gotta go.
Let me say this before you start in. This was the range that I struggled with the most. I didn't like anyone in here except for one guy. So that just shows you how handicapping this thing. You've got some edges in here. I want to hear your takes because there's really only one guy I could find in here. And I saw somebody in our comments here that's intrigued by a player, and I have a little to add to that. But let's let you go. I want to hear what you're thinking here in this 8K.
Okay, well, you know, so I'm going to go ahead and just show this comment up here. All right, so Matthew Dukes Hannah, he says, John, any thoughts from being out there over the years on how Nick Taylor is in a win general? Okay.
Yeah. So I have a take on this.
All right.
Do you want to go ahead?
I have a take too. So I don't know the answer to that question, but I actually have Nick Taylor as my fade. And I'll give you some reasons why. Because I love the fact that we could possibly differ here. Now, he is coming in good form. Top 10 at the Fortinet, top 20 at the Sanderson. But I like to give you some hot takes here, okay? You know, on this show. And I don't like to just go with what everybody's talking about. So I think Nick Taylor is going to be a guy that a lot of people are talking about this week. He's 8,800. He missed the cut the only time he played here, which is last year in 2022. Very similar conditions. It was windy, and we're going to get wind this year. If you look at the stats for Nick Taylor, okay, he's 74th in ball striking. This is over his last 24 rounds. He's 88th in strokes gained approach, 58th in driving accuracy, okay? So there's not a whole lot to like about him. He's also 66 in the field in putting on Bermuda. So Nick Taylor, to me, if I'm just looking at stats, I'm looking at how he performed here last year. I'm throwing out form, which I always like form. Nick Taylor looks to me like a fade. So I'm gonna before we talk our favorite plays, since this has already been brought up, what do you think about that? Like, what about Nick Taylor?
Yeah, so I was struggling with Nick Taylor here just a little bit because I looked and he's played two great events this fall. at places that he plays well year in and year out. So he's winner at Sanderson, plays well at Shriners all the time. So what I mentioned earlier, I was caddying for Brennan Todd at Jackson, Mississippi. By the way, terrible place for Brennan Todd. Never made a cut there. He told me in the locker room on Friday after we frickin' trunk slammed again. Made 2 stupid bogeys coming in. Sorry if you had him in your lineup. But we were paired with Nick Taylor the first 2 days. And he hit the ball amazing. And we were on the bad draw. We were in the windier draw. It was a really, really nice display. Made some putts too at a place that he knows well. He does get a tendency with the driver to get kind of a quick left miss going, but I was super impressed enough to tout him, in Vegas the next week. And he kind of got hot on the weekend and turned it into something. It was a little bit of a slow start, but yeah, I mean, I can see how with Nick Taylor, the stats that you're looking at, I mean, they do make sense. I will say that he is hitting the ball better right now, maybe than his stats lead to believe. But this, to me, wouldn't be a natural fit for Nick Taylor, to get out there in the slop. It's going to be windy. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be nasty. He's got a great attitude out there. Really a nice guy. One of my favorites out there. But tricky one with Nick. And he's probably pretty chalky this week, right? Him and Adam Long,
we'll
I kind of had as chalk. Yeah.
Smart AC in the chat thinks he's not even going to be talked about at all. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen, just when I, doing a little look around Twitter or whatever else before the show, Nick Taylor was mentioned a little bit. And that's like anytime Nick Taylor's name is even mentioned by one person, that means people are talking about him unnecessarily. All right. So let's talk about some players that I do like. I like Adam Long at 8,900. I'm eventually going to be right about Adam Long. I've talked about him forever. And I just like his game. He's a good ball striker, hits a lot of greens, hits a lot of fairways. He's a good putter on Bermuda grass. He's 5th in the field, looking over his last 100 rounds putting on Bermuda. He has not played this course before, so we don't have any history there. The recent results are okay. 30th at the Sanderson Farms, did miss a cut at the Fortinet. Maybe he had too much wine. I don't know. He's in Napa. And then T53 at the Zozo. But I just think Adam Long eventually he's gonna win a damn golf tournament. He is. He's gonna win the golf tournament. And then dropping down to 8,300. Now, this is a guy that I looked at from a betting standpoint also, and I texted DB. I was like, this guy is 95-1 on FanDuel, I believe, but he's 50-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. And that is Austin Eckroat. He is at 8,300. I like him a lot this week. And so if you can get that 95-1 number, by the way, on him at FanDuel, then go ahead and get it. Because I think it's probably going to be gone by now, but I was looking right before the show and it was still there. But Austin Eckroat is 8,300. He was T22 here last year. He's a guy that just has a super solid game. He's made his last 3 cuts. You look at the stats for him, they look good as well. I mean, he is top 10 in ball striking, top 15 in approach, 15th in driving accuracy. He is 2nd in good drives gained. Putting on Bermuda you'll see that theme with a lot of these good ball strikers this week. Putting is a little suspect at times. But Austin Eckroat I like a lot at 8,300. My cash lock is going to be Adam Long, though, at 8,900. I don't see him missing the cut. I feel like he's going to have a solid week. So those are the plays this week for the 8K range. But I got a few others that I'm going to throw out there for bets. But I'll throw it over to you, John, for your plays in here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Eckroat showed up on mine as well. I also, maybe I should wait and let you. I don't have a lot here. I have one, and he's my favorite play in this range at 8,700. Adam Schenk, 60-1 to win. You can get him on a top 10. I really maybe even like a little bit more. 60-1 on Adam Schenk. Now, he hasn't been a guy that's contended a ton, but he's gotten in the mix a lot more in the last couple of years. Reasons I like Adam, 16th and 12th, his last 2 starts out. He's made 4 out of his last 5 cuts. He's gaining 2.4 shots approach on those. He plays well in the wind. I've seen it. He putts well on Bermuda. I've seen it. He finished 26th here 2 years ago, his only other start. You know, and if you didn't play him at the Shriners, make sure you do next year because he's done awesome there. 5 out of 6 cuts made, never finished worse than 27th at Shriners. My only concern with Shank this week in winning is his around the green game. And I think you're going to need it this week. And his chipping game is not great. And I think there's going to be some momentum swingers that are going to cost him there. But I really like Shank a lot this week, just on how he's been kind of just gradually stair-stepping, and he's got some good form coming into this, and he's seen the golf course before. So he's my favorite play there. He would be my cash lock too. My fade is EVR, Eric Van Rooyen. Although I'm a little hesitant on that, only just picking on him because he's coming back from an injury. He's played 2 times over in Europe recently, made the cut his first time back, missed last week. His caddy and him got to go play Royal County Down over the weekend. So pretty lucky with them.
Greatest courses in the world.
Yeah, unbelievable. Saw their post online. And he's not a terrible win player. He hasn't played here before. You know, he's also going to be one of the highest ranked players in the field. So he should be kind of comfortable, but maybe, you know, still coming back from injury, figuring things out in the wind, first time around. I'm just not as high on him. You know, I'm interested to hear what your other plays were, and if they aren't guys that I had listed as kind of like interesting, then I'll chime in with my guys. But let's hear your other plays in this range.
Yeah, I like the EVR fade. I mean, I think he could end up being like, if we're talking about maybe some chalk here in this range, in the 8K range, you could maybe see some EVR chalk. I don't know, maybe not. I'm terrible at ownership. I love Adam Schenk. I think that's, you know, I didn't talk about him for DFS, but if you know, you mentioned 60 to 1, I can get him at 60 to 1. I think you just hammer that number right away, because I've seen him at, I think 45 to 1 was the best I saw him at. So 60 to 1 is a great number there. You know, I mentioned Eckroat, if you can get him at 95 to 1. I don't know if that number's still there, but I do know 70 to 1 is at least in that range, I think, on PointsBet. And then Brandon Wu at 50 to 1. I think he's a guy that is going to win soon. I mean, he is a super talented guy. You know, came off the Korn Ferry Tour, has played fairly well, you know, since this season. So I like Brandon Wu a good bit. And like I said, I think the best I've seen him at is 51. He did play here last year. He finished T34. You know, he checks a lot of boxes as well. Great putter. He's top 25 in par 5 scoring. Good ball striker. He's 35th in the field there. So Brandon Wu is one that I think you could look at from an outright bet, or maybe even a top 20. I haven't looked at that number, but you know, he could be a good one there.
Yeah. Have I ever told you I've caddied for Brandon Wu before? I've caddied for him for 1 hole.
One hole. Why was it 1 hole?
So funny. It was when I was working for Martin Laird, and he got injured. So I get a call from a buddy. He says, "You want to go work for Brandon Wu on the Korn Ferry Tour?" I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great. He's a stud." So I fly out to Denver, Colorado and this is during COVID. And we get out there, meet him Tuesday morning. He warms up on the range. We go play the first hole, par 5 driver, 3-1 on the green, nice chip and a putt, made birdie. You know, off we went. We get to the second tee, and he pulls up his test results, and he goes, "What has detected me?" What do you think detected means? I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" So then we get, you know, I mean, they were like, "Get away from these guys." They're, you know, and I was home that night. It was, you know, and I got paid and all that shit. But Brandon Wu is a phenomenal talent. He interestingly, California guy plays really good on Bermuda grass. His ball striking does not look like it's been what it's capable of in the last few events, but he's still kind of making cuts and getting it done with his short game. Another guy that I was interested to find out made a cut here, a guy that I'm really high on, maybe not this week, but for, you know, this year, is Will Gordon. You know, played well here last time he played.
That was another one I was going to mention. Yeah. I
mean, Will Gordon, but he doesn't get to use his driver this week, and he's a bomber. So yeah. I would like, you know, bringing Will out some other place this fall. I don't know what else is going to make sense for him, whether it's Houston or Sea Island on him, at least this fall. But he's interesting. Gligic also was kind of showing up on my model a little bit, but he I think the time that he played well here was maybe I don't know. He was in a little better form, I think. He was in a little better
can't ever
form
get
the
him
last
right.
time. Yeah.
I just can't get him right. I looked at him, but no. By the way, I got distracted there for a second, John, which happens on the podcast all the time when DB's hosted, because DB and I just hit an anytime touchdown for Khalil Herbert at plus 500. Now, there's a reason I'm going to mention this, and it's because of the Nut Hut. If you are listening to the show or watching this show and you are not in the Nut, you need to be, okay? Because it's not all about golf. You're going to get the golf knowledge, all right? You got Caddy John sitting right next to me, sort of, electronically. You got Caddy John right next to me. He gives his information in the caddy info, okay? He gives us the inside information on the course. We got your golf covered. But we also got other things covered. Prize picks. If you play prize picks, all right? We killed it last week when it came to the golf. And we're killing it on the football and everything else. We got football channels, and here's why I mentioned the Khalil Herbert hit, because that was mentioned in one of our football channels about an anytime touchdown from Khalil Herbert at plus 500, and it just hit. So it's $10 a month. $10 a month. I mean, that's nothing. $10 a month is nothing. So you got to get in the Nut Hut, all right? And I tried to put the graphic up, but that didn't work. I don't know what happened.
There's the Nut Hut. It's up there. It showed up on my side.
It showed up for you? Okay.
Little mini one up here in the corner.
A little mini Nut Hut.
The little mini. Wonder if it has to do with last year, Lucas Herbert won at Bermuda, and then now here we are the Monday of Bermuda week, and then you get a Herbert hit in the football.
I guess. I don't know. All I know is you got to get in the Nut Hut. Go to tourjunkies.com. Go to the chat. Whatever. You'll find it. And get in there. It's $10 a month or $90 for the year. It's going to pay for itself. That's cheap. That's really cheap. So
it's fun. It's fun. Yeah, I'm in there from time to time. I like put my post up every week, but all the different channels in there, and it's grown over the last year. I mean, you guys have it really dialed. It's a cool community. I mean, the Tour Junkies community is unbelievable. Really supportive, fun group, and I agree. You get free picks like that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great group. The community is the thing too. It's just a fantastic community. So, all right, get in the Nut Hut. All right, let's move on.
I see on the comments though, before you go on, see who this is from here. Anthony AC. He says this place is going to get smoked by a storm, and I did look at the weather, and it looks a little thunderstormy, and it's kind of brewing out there right now. I don't know what to do with that. Honestly, I mean, they're going to play golf, I'm thinking. Doesn't look like a hurricane that's coming. Maybe there is, and I don't even know about it.
I don't know.
Kind of crazy that they're playing out there this time of year. But I think that just shows you that the wind is going to be a factor this week. And I'm favoring guys that know how to play in the wind. It's not going to be your Brennan Todd version this year.
No, I totally agree. There's no way it's a Brennan Todd version this week. All right, sorry, I was just having to get some more Tito's. I don't, you're lucky, John, because I don't really give DB too many Tito's nights on the pod anymore.
Does Tito's not mix well for him, or you don't do Tito's?
No, me and Tito's do well, but not in every show, so he doesn't get a whole. Gotcha. I dial it back.
Yeah, it's the best.
But tonight I feel like going with some Tito's. All right, let's get into the 7K range. We got a lot of players in here. All right. At the top, Cameron Percy. I know you're a big Cameron Percy fan. And then all the way down to the 7,000, you get guys like Luke Donald in there that you can play, and Nate Lashley and Brian Stewart, who plays every PGA Tour event on earth. I feel like Brian Stewart is never not in the field. So I'll give you a few in here. Obviously there's a lot of guys in the 7K range. I'll start with a guy that I'm just a sucker for. I can't quit him. And that is Sam Ryder at 7,700. I like him this week. Sam is, he's just one of those players that I feel like is on the cusp of either, maybe winning, doing something great. He's made his last 3 cuts, had top 30 at the Shriners, T36 at the Zozo. You look at his tournament history here. It's not great. Missed the cut the only time he's played. But the stats are pretty good here. All right, across the board. Literally, as a matter of fact, he's one of the only ones when I look at the stats that I like where he's in the top 40 of all of them. That's putting, driving accuracy, ball striking, approach, everything. He is literally in the top 40, par 5 scoring. So I like Sam Ryder there at 7,700. Then I'll drop down to a guy that I just think this is a perfect course fit for, and that's Ryan Armour. I mean, he just doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. He hits a lot of fairways, hits a lot of greens. You just, like if Brian Gay can win this golf tournament, Ryan Armour can win this golf tournament. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like Brian Gay and Ryan Armour are like they're like twins, but they're fraternal, so they don't look alike.
Right.
So I like those two, and then Garrick Higo kind of interests me a little bit. Did you look at Higo? Did he kind of pop for you a little bit, John?
I didn't dig into the Higo, but somebody's mention on my Twitter feed was like, saying, "Oh, everybody's gonna be on Higo this week," and so he hasn't been playing as good, and he was the winner last week, when they played there the year before, right? And I just have him in my head that he's more, all over the map. I might be wrong on that. I don't know much about his game, but I mean, it's a good price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that price, 7,400. So I think Higo looks good as well. So those are kind of my three guys that I was sort of pegging in this range. There's so many. Doug Gim is my fade. And I feel like I was like on Doug Gim last year going into this tournament, but he just really has not been doing anything well. I mean, I know he finished top 15 here in 2021. But you look at his recent results, nothing really excites you. T72 at the Fortinet, T56 at the Shriners. He's 7,800. Go just look at his stats. Nothing is good. Nothing. There's a lot of red. When you look at all right, so if you go to fantasynational.com/TJ, you're gonna see if you get red on the stat lines, that's not good. He's got 3 reds for me, and that's in ball striking, approach, and putting on Bermuda. Doug Gim, I think I just don't see a good week out of him.
Yeah. So this is great. I have some great things to add to what you said. Doug Gim is lost right now. Played a practice round with him earlier this year when I was with Jaeger at John Deere. It was just he's traipsing all over the greens, trying to figure out breaks with his caddy. I don't want to talk crap about anyone, but I will tell you when Doug Gim was playing really good a year ago, 2 years ago, had a caddy on his bag, Micah Fugit. Great caddy, was with Billy Horschel when he won the FedEx Cup. Remember when Scott Piercy played good earlier this year at 3M? Yes. He almost won the damn thing.
Yeah.
You know who was on his bag? Micah Fugit. Huh. You know who's on the bag now for a guy that we didn't even mention earlier this time? I think he's still in the field. That's having an unbelievable start to his fall. New guy on the radar, S.H. Kim. Whatever you. Oh. That's Micah Fugit's on that bag too. Like,
love
he's a good
Kim.
caddy.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you, like Doug Gim, your guy left you, or you let him go. Whatever happened, Micah's on to the next thing, and he knows how to caddy. And good caddies find their way onto good bags, and so that's maybe more of an endorsement for S.H. Kim than anything going forward. He's been a guy that kind of came out of nowhere for me. I like your Sam Ryder call. 7,700. Plays well in the wind. I don't care about the miscut the other time. He's a good wind player. He's always been a good ball striker. He actually, gained as he's been gaining on the greens, like out of control. Like he hasn't always been a good putter, and he's been really putting good recently. His last 6 measured rounds, he's gained 2 strokes. A tournament or 6 measured tournaments, he's gained over 2 strokes. I think that's impressive. 6 out of the last 7 cuts. Similar to Shank. He's got a little concerns around the green for an outright maybe for me this week, but I do like Sam at 7,700. And your Ryan Armour call, interesting. I mean, Ryan, Brian Gay light. Ryan, I don't think he's as playing as well as he did a couple years ago when he won at Sanderson. He's a reliable ball striker. Sometimes misses short putts. Not to be Debbie Downer. Interesting side note: he did finish 13th at Sanderson, where he's played well before. He's played well here a number of times. So I think he's fully capable of having a nice week. it's one of those guys where he knows that at certain places he has to play well that week. And this is one of them. It's a 6,800-yard golf course. Ryan Armour needs to play well. His longtime caddy from when he first started, Doug Tyler, a friend of mine, passed away 2 weeks ago, last Monday, actually. And that really shook Ryan up. And we reported about it on the Caddy Network and stuff. I don't know how he died, but it was just kind of news. And I think that could be, really bad. You never wish that, but maybe somewhat inspiring for Ryan. So I would say, that would be another reason to maybe be on Ryan this week. As bad as that sounds, Dougie Tyler,
well,
D-Bear.
yeah, I mean, he probably wants to perform well in his memory, so that could be interesting.
Yeah, interesting. So the other guys I had popping in this range, Chesson Hadley at 7,600 yards. I really like Chesson this week. He finished 16th here, his only other appearance in 2020. His irons are really good right now. He's an awesome putter. I mean, you go and look at his strokes gained. I mean, 8 out of the last 10 tournaments, he's gained double digits on the greens. The thing with Chesson is he going to get the ball in the fairway? And the only thing that I'm thinking about this week is you don't have to hit as many drivers. You're dialing it back. His irons are on fire. So maybe he's hitting a few more 3-woods and stuff off the tee pegged low. That might be a good thing for him out here. He's obviously played well here before. So I like Chesson. Been having a little bit of a resurgence, in his career the last, since the middle of the summer on. I mean, he had a moment there at the end of last season where it was really good. He was in the mix a lot. And then the other guy that's course history guy, I know you're a course history guy, that isn't maybe playing amazing right now, but for some reason I'm I think this guy's good here, is Kramer Hickok at 7,000. Finished 30th, 8th, and 15th here 3 previous times. And when you go back and look at his stats, he wasn't really playing good coming into any of them. And his stats are weird. You look at his stats and they don't make sense at all. He's never consistent in one way. One place that he is consistent is he plays well in the wind and he hits a lot of fairways. And he's been hitting fairways of late, and that's what you're going to need to do this week. So a guy that's hitting fairways that has played well here before, I'm all in at 7,000 on him. Maybe doesn't make enough putts to win the golf tournament, but in an event this week where we're talking about this might be a 10 to 15 under winner, maybe not even if the weather's crazy. He could be a nice play, guy that's got good memories around here.
Yeah, I like Kramer Hickok. As a matter of fact, I was going to mention him as a bet. So I've got a few bets that I like in this range too. Hickok was one of them. He's at 100 to 1 was the best odds I saw for him. All the reasons you said, I like that. Higo is at 80 to 1. If you like that. Ben Griffin is at 120 to 1. I think Ben makes, is an interesting play here. He's kind of a, he's a Korn Ferry guy. Isn't he a Korn Ferry graduate? Finished top 25 at the Sanderson Farms.
Griffin.
Yep.
Yeah. Good player.
7,200 on DraftKings. But yeah, great player. He's a good ball striker. He's top 15 in the field in both ball striking and approach. Checks the box in putting and par 5 scoring. So I like that about Ben Griffin. I think he could be an interesting play. Maybe if you don't want to go outright at 120 to 1, look for a good top 20 number on Ben Griffin. So, all right. Anybody else in the 7K range that you want to talk about, or are we good there?
Not really. I mean, there's going to be some surprises in here, right? I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. That 7K is loaded. It's interesting. I mean, maybe just a nice place to talk briefly just about lineup construction. I was playing around with some lineups this afternoon. I don't know how I'm going to settle. It sounds like for you're going to be hammering that 8K range a lot, which is just going to allow you to you can just be super balanced, I guess.
Yeah.
I kind of like maybe a couple of the guys up at the top a little more, which makes it struggling at the bottom, which is perfect segue to talking about this 6K range. Because if you're going to play, a Denny McCarthy or a Dietrich, you like some of those guys at the top of the board, you're going to have to slide into the 6K in some way.
Yeah. And this is and we differ a lot. And that's a good thing. We don't have to be the same on everything that we like. I do like a more balanced, maybe mid 9K range start and then go from there. And so that's going to allow me to put more 7 and 8K guys in there. But if you do have to dip into the 6K range, which a lot of, it's going to happen. And then, like we said, it could be long shot season, and there's a lot of long shots in this 6K range. So I gotta say, I gotta kind of I'm gonna give you a few initial ones here that just, I'm just gonna eyeball. But I got to kind of pass it on to you in the K range because there's just not really any guys that like really give me a whole lot of like excitement in this range. I mean, like Scott, I can't even say his name, Scott Kudcheski.
Oh, yeah, Omaha, Nebraska. Kudcheski.
6,700. He kind of interests me a little bit. He was top 40 here last year. He's one that I think could be an interesting play. Probably not, but look at the stats. He checks a lot of boxes.
Ball striker.
I don't know. He must be a good ball striker, and he must be either long off the tee or he can score on par fives for some reason because he's top 15 in the field there. So he's one that just kind of jumps off the page a little bit for me early. Who else here? I mean, I just don't want to give you guys like Von Taylor, who may check some boxes, and Brian Gay. So I got to give it to you here, John. I mean, who are some guys that you really like in this race?
Well, hey, so let's just talk about Brian Gay a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Brian Gay, his record here is amazing, right? He's the best strokes gain guy here ever. I mean, a winner, a second, and like a 12th or something. Like, I mean, and that was last year. And I was like, and Brian Gay, the only knock here now is the same golf course. He's hitting at the same distance. And he's been playing on the Champions Tour all year long, and he's been doing really well. In fact, he finished 6th last week on the Champions Tour. So he's got some decent form coming into this week at a place where he's played well before. But when you look, I think when you dig deeper, you look at like he's played some PGA Tour stuff this year. The results just haven't been there at all on the PGA Tour. And I wonder about that when guys finally cross over, if there's like a mental thing that happens where they can't get it back for some reason. I'm intrigued by him because it's the same golf course and he's the same player. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if this time around he is the same player on the PGA Tour. I don't know. I do like the one name I do like that's at 6,800 is Jonathan Bird, which is kind of in the same vein, right? Brian Gay, Von Taylor, Jonathan Bird. Jay Bird has played well here before. He did finish, I think, 9th earlier this year at Pebble Beach in 2022, 9th place finish for Jay Bird. Really good ball striker, even in the last month. Like he's popping 3-4 strokes gained approach. Like he gets it done. He gets a little shaky on some of his putting. But my wild card then on the bag this week, Crispy Jones, who, took over for Brennan Todd the week after me, had a nice week in Las Vegas. Caddy for a kid in Q school, did good. And all these wins with Mark Wilson. Like Crispy's a super enthusiastic guy. I would say, like, if you're looking for a guy in the 6K that you need to get 6 out of 6 with, and you can fit Jonathan Bird in, you're like, I don't like these other guys. I would have no problem slotting Jay Bird in this week just because of that little combination of those two guys. But other than that, I mean, it's really barren down there. I mean, I peeked at Chris Stroud a little bit. Harry Higgs, like, what are we doing, Harry? Like, was he never good?
Yeah, he almost won here last year. I think DB had a ticket on him to win.
Was it last year though, or was it 2 years ago?
Maybe it was 20. Yeah, it was 2020. When Todd won, DB had him to win. I think he had like a 3 or 4 shot lead, and then Brendan Todd just went bonkers in the final round and lapped him almost. So yeah.
I mean, I had a buddy text me that he's like dark horse. What's this guy's name? Chandler Blanchett, Monday qualifier. My buddy's like, hey, Chandler got in. He's good. Like he's $6,400. Like, I mean, we are just like scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Chandler Blanchett. It sounds like he should be in a Beverly Hills 902 or what was it? That Southern show, the Southern God, what's that show?
Oh, Dawson's Creek.
I don't know, like a Dawson's Creek or something like that. Chandler Blanchett. Yeah, he sounds like an actor. You're right. John Daly, 6,000. I mean, does he get a cart this week? He's going to need one. If he doesn't get a cart, he will not finish. Do not put him in your lineup. That guy will not be able to walk the golf course. John Daly can be a prize pick. If there's something on Prize Picks for John Daly to have one birdie, like, so they'll put it like they'll do a birdie number like over under a half. So basically, just one birdie. We did this at the Open Championship.
I remember it.
We hammered it, and he got it because we were like, he's gonna have one birdie in the round, and especially with these par fives.
Yep.
So if you're on Prize Picks and they put a birdie number at 0.5 for John Daly, just play that. You got to play it.
I would play it at 1.5. I would play it at 1.5 too. But I like, let's dig into this before Thursday. Let's see if we can get any John Daly action. He's at the bottom of the board. But man, Akshai's in there. He hasn't been playing good. I think he got an invite, winner earlier this year in the Bahamas, not far away.
Is there a more like talented kid that still, like, he has so many ups and downs. Like, he started off the season in the Corn Ferry with a win.
Yeah.
And still didn't
make it. Yeah, I know he had a chance in the last one. He didn't get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's, what is he, 20 years old? I mean, he's just still figuring it out.
He's still young.
Yeah.
But Chalk Bomb Ben talks about Akshay. He's a big fan of him. All right. So that's all I got for the 6K range and for DFS. I'll look at a few. I don't know if you have any, but I'll give you a few top 20s that I'm looking at. John, I don't know if you have any, but I've got a few.
No, I mean, I would I would take my Jay Bird maybe.
Yeah. Let me find out where Jay Bird is for top 20, because that could be a good number. Hang on, bear with me. Dead air.
Yeah, I'm not. You guys have more outlets here to find these numbers than me.
Yeah, he's got to be in here somewhere, but I don't see him. Yep, there he is. He's plus 450 on DraftKings or BetMGM. He's actually plus 600 as a top 20. So I like that. We'll start at kind of your favorites here for top 20 that I like. I like Adam Long. I mentioned that earlier. He's at plus 180 as a top 20. Robbie Shelton is plus 180 also as a top 20. A couple more. You got Will Gordon, who you mentioned. He is plus 200 as a top 20. Austin Eckroat is plus 225. Going a little bit down the board with some guys that I like here that I think could give you some pretty good odds for a top 20. Kramer Hickok. John and I both liked him. He is plus 350 to finish in the top 20. I think that's pretty good. A pretty good number there. Couple more I'll give you. I'll give you one more kind of middle of the road, and then we'll go long shot. I do like, where was he? I guess I'll give, I said Higo. I like Higo's at plus 350. Let's look at a long shot here, though, for a top 20. And a long shot's going to be anywhere, around like plus 700, plus 800. So, who do I like here? I don't like anybody. Nope. Don't like anybody.
So DB's chiming in. He goes, you guys still going? Jeez. So here we are, deep into the night. But there was a question here from Dave. He asked about Kevin Yu, Ben Griffin, and MJ Doffy. I can't quite remember how to pronounce his name. Kevin Yu was news to me. I didn't even know. And but playing good. Ben Griffin, we mentioned him, and then MJ Doffy. I think good player. Obviously, been playing good on Monday qualifiers and has status.
Well, DB obviously isn't listening because we did mention Ben Griffin earlier, so he wasn't listening to that. So he'll have to go back for that talk. And then look, DB comes in here and he says, "God, Pat, this is miserable." Okay, DB's in Miami.
Yeah, what are you doing?
What the hell are you doing in Miami? Listening to this show.
I hope you're getting ready to go out.
You're the biggest loser on the planet. You are such a loser.
Yeah.
I love you, but this is the most loser move I've ever seen. You should be out. They got ladies in I know you're married. I'm sorry. But they got bars and stuff in Miami that you can go to. You don't need to be listening to us. Go get a shoe fly. All right. That's all I got. John, appreciate you. Thanks for coming in and filling in for DB, non-partying DB. Sitting in hotel room DB, watching us. But we appreciate you. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, not many. I think I need to hit up DB to have him on the Caddy Network this week. So I'm glad he's there. I'm gonna hit him up, see if he can get back to me. We'll get you some content over there. We always got good stuff on the Caddy Network. But I mean, looking forward. I mean, here's the thing about this one that does stick up to me. I told you earlier, I think this might be the last time we see a tournament like this, right? I mean, I think this is a little bit of an ending where you're going to see fields going this deep on the PGA Tour. But these guys are playing, correct me if I'm wrong, these guys are playing for $8 million this week, or 7 or 6, and an invite to the Masters. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Full field. So unbelievable opportunity this week.
Yeah. No, it is. So, but you're right. It could be the end of this kind of thing. But all right. Well, good luck, everybody, and thank you, Caddy John. That's all I got.
Cheers. Thanks.
See ya. Out.